If you are brand new to Wuthering Waves, there are some things you're going to want to know before you start. And if you've been playing for a while already, maybe you're just looking for some extra tips. If either of those is you, then make sure you stick around because I'm about to go through everything that you need to know if you're just starting out Wuthering Waves. This is going to be my best attempt at a full beginner's guide. So by the time you're done with this video, you'll know everything you need to know to cover all the basics and be successful in the game. But hey, first, if you're new here on my channel, thanks for stopping by. My name is Solus. I make videos about gacha games, guides, news, just whatever I feel like making. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, please hit that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. Now let's dive right in with my first and probably most important tip, which is with respect to the beginner banners. If you're new to Wuthering Waves, prepare yourself for a new standard of just how generous gacha game devs can be, because you're about to get access to 3 of the 5 standard 5-star characters completely for free. And of those 3, you get to choose 2 of them. But you do want to be mindful of how you go about this, so let me explain. First of all though, at the end of the day, do whatever you want to do and pull whoever you want to pull. You do not have to listen to me. But if you want to have the easiest time in the game, I'd recommend following the advice that I'm about to give, which is do not use the standard banner 5-star selector that you get via the in-game mail right away. Trust me, you need to wait to do this. What you're going to want to do is just play the game until you finish the beginner's convene, which is the beginner's banner for a standard 5-star character. You're guaranteed to get a random 5-star character within 50 pulls, but it only actually costs you 40 pulls to do it. You will be able to get this very quickly, probably within a couple of hours of playing. And you want to make sure that you get this 5-star character first, because it is random and you don't want to accidentally get the same 5-star character that you already chose if you already chose one from the ticket that you get via in-game mail. Once you have got the random 5-star character from the beginner convene banner, then I would say it's good to go ahead and make your choice for your 5-star character. What you do next is up to you, but I would highly suggest that for one of your 2 choices, because you do get to choose 2, that you choose Verena if you did not get her from your random pull. For your second choice, I would say just choose whichever DPS you like best. You can't go wrong with any of them, but for those of you who want to know, Encore is the strongest and probably the best choice. The second thing that you need to know if you're just starting out Wuthering Waves is to not spread your resources too thin. So what do I mean by this? I mean that at first, you need to focus all of your resources into a single team of 3 characters. This is going to be your main DPS, a sub DPS, and a support. Now, there are a bunch of different team comps that you can make depending on who you chose as your 5-star characters and which 4-star characters you got in your polls, but I'll just give you a quick rundown. If you have Encore, Calcaro, or Lin Yang, you would use one of those as your main DPS. Rover is actually unironically an amazing DPS as well, even in late game. 2 very good sub DPS characters would be Sanhua or Mortefi. Sanhua is also a good main DPS as well. And at the beginning of the game, you're only going to have access to 2 support characters, which are going to be Verena and Baizha. If you followed my advice and you chose Verena as one of your 5-star units, let her get comfy, because she's going to be carrying your teams for the long foreseeable future until you get another support like Shorekeeper or another character that comes out in the future. So a really decent example of a team that you could invest in the beginning would be Encore, Mortefi, and Verena. Like I said, there are a bunch of different team comps that you can make, but for right now, the important thing is just to choose a team of 3 and invest the majority of your resources into that team of 3 at the beginning. Otherwise, if you spread your resources too thin, you'll end up with a bunch of half-leveled characters, and then you will run out of resources, and that is no fun. Don't let this discourage you, however, because over time, you will be able to level many more characters and teams. This is just what you should do at the very beginning. Now, let's talk a little bit about combat and team building in general. Wuthering Waves combat is easy to learn but hard to master. Seriously, there's a relatively high level of skill expression in this game when compared with the combat in other gacha games. But the basics stay the same, so let's take a look at the skill tree for my Jinshi and go through it. Every character has a basic attack, a resonance skill, a forte circuit, a resonance liberation, an intro skill, and an outro skill. Boiled down to the basics, what this means is that Every character has a basic attack, a skill, and an ultimate. The Forte circuit is always related to a character's Forte gauge, which is always going to be incorporated right above your character's HP bar. This is unique for every character, and this is where it's important for you to learn your character's kit and what they do. And a big part of that is also the intro and outro skills. The intro and outro skills have certain effects like doing damage, healing, or damage buffs for your team. Knowing the intro and outro skills are basically the core of what you need to know in order to do proper team building. You'll always want to have Shorekeeper, Verina, or Baizha in your support slot because their outro skills provide significant damage buffs for your entire team. Typically, you're going to want a sub DPS that has an outro skill that provides a specific damage type buff for your main DPS. For example, Zhezha is a great sub DPS for Jin Shi because Zhezha's outro skill buffs resonance skill damage, and that is where the majority of Jin Shi's damage comes from. There's probably enough to talk about here with combat for it to be its own video, so I'm going to keep things moving along, but basically you want to structure your teams around the idea of having a main DPS, a sub DPS, and a support/healer where the intro and outro skills of each benefit each other. Now, in terms of the actual combat, in order to activate your intro and outro skills, you need to fill up this little gauge down here, which is called the Concerto gauge. You get Concerto energy to fill up that gauge from your basic attacks using your skill and certain buffs and weapon buffs. Once it's full, when you swap characters, the character that you are currently using will perform their outro skill, and the character that you're switching to will use their intro skill. Now, you also have dodges and dodge counters. The dodge counter is where if you perform a basic attack after completing a perfect dodge, your attack will have increased damage. Every enemy and boss also has a stagger bar, and once they are staggered, they are rendered immobile and take increased damage. You can whittle down an enemy's stagger bar in 3 ways. First, just by doing regular damage. Second, you do a significant amount of damage to the stagger bars when you perform intro and outro skills. So basically when you swap characters. And the third way is by performing counterattacks. I'll show you a quick example. When you see an enemy or boss have this glowing gold circle, that's letting you know that they are about to attack. And if you attack them at the correct timing, you'll hear a nice satisfying clink and do a sizable amount of damage to the stagger bar. Once you have staggered a boss, you typically want to get through your entire rotation to where your main DPS is dishing out as much damage as possible while the boss is still immobile. There's also a technique called swap canceling, and I'm not going to get into that in this guide because this is a beginner guide, and if I'm being completely honest with you guys, I've never really found swap canceling to be necessary to clear any content. But that is another level of depth that does exist, and I'm sure that you can find other guides talking about that if you're interested in it. You also will need to eventually incorporate your echoes into your combat, so let's go ahead and talk about echoes next. Echoes are like artifacts from Genshin Impact or relics from Honkai Star Rail, if you're familiar with either of those. The main difference is that echoes actually consist of the monsters and bosses that you fight in the game. They're kind of like Pokemon. Every time that you kill an enemy or a boss, there is a chance that its echo will drop. Now, they come in 4 rarities, which are green, blue, purple, and gold. You'll also have this thing called the data bank in your main menu. This is like your Pokédex. This tells you what echoes of what rarity you already have and which ones you are missing. Every time that you get an echo of a rarity that you didn't have before, it gives you experience points that level up your data bank, and as your data bank levels up, so too do your chances of obtaining echoes of higher rarities. When your data bank is maxed out at level 21, you have a 100% chance of getting gold 5-star echoes every time. Now listen carefully because what I'm about to say next is very important. At the beginning of the game, you need to save all of the resources that you would use to level up your echoes until you're at the point where you're getting gold 5-star echoes. You only want to truly invest in gold 5-star echoes that you want to keep. Anything of purple rarity or below is just eventually going to get replaced, so investing too many resources into them is not not recommended. Now, you can invest echoes that have already been leveled up into other echoes to level them up, but it's not a 1-to-1 ratio, so you are losing out on XP when you do that. Now, if you're struggling with some of the content, I would say it's okay to level up some of your purple echoes to say level 10 or 15 just to help out a little bit, but I wouldn't recommend doing much more than that. So each echo has an associated points cost with it, and you can have 12 points worth of echoes on any character. This is extremely easy to deal with though, so don't worry about it. You basically just want to follow what is called a 4-3-3-1-1. That means that your main echo, the one that you actually use in combat, is going to be a 4-cost echo, and then you're going to choose 2 3-cost echoes and 2 1-cost echoes. And congratulations, that equals 12 points. If you're not sure which echoes to use on any particular character, I would recommend just Googling it. It's very easy to find out which echo set and which main echo that you should use on any character. Now, that being said, figuring out which echo sets to use on any given character is actually pretty straightforward. The majority of the sets are element specific, so for example, if your main DPS is Encore, you will want to put the Molten Rift echo set on her, which boosts her fusion damage. A super easy rule of thumb to follow is this: for your main DPS, use whichever echo set for whatever element that they are. For your sub DPS, use the Moonlit Clouds echo set, which is an echo set that gives energy regen bonus and boosts the damage of your main DPS. And for your support / healer, use the Rejuvenating Glow echo set. Once you start getting echoes that are gold 5-star rarity, you'll want to actually start leveling those to their max level, which is level 25. Every 5 levels, you get to use tuners to unlock a substat. So for each echo that is at max level, that is 5 substats. But listen closely again, because this next part is also very important. Leveling an echo from level 20 to level 25 costs almost as much resources as it does to level an echo from level 1 to 20. So essentially, never level an echo up to level 25 blindly, because it is essentially a massive waste of resources, and it is very expensive to use your daily stamina to farm echo resources. So here's what I would recommend that you do. If you get a gold 5-star echo that has the correct main stat and you want to keep it, level it up to level 15. Then use your tuners to unlock the first 3 substats. If 2 of the 3 or all 3 are substats that you want, then level it to 20 and try for the 4th substat. But whatever you do, I would highly recommend that you only level your echoes up to level 25 if you've rolled what you want for the first 3 of the 4 substats. What you do is going to be different from person to person, and also based on the substats that you need for whatever character you are building. But the point that I want you to walk away from this from is just to be careful with your echo resources and be mindful about how you are doing it. It is not going to be fun if you have a bunch of useless level 25 echoes and then you're out of resources to try and level more of them. Okay, so before I get into a couple of the next big topics, I want to hit on this one real quick, and this also relates to your echoes. One of the first things that should be on your mind as you're playing through the game is unlocking all of the resonance nexuses and the fast travel points. The resonance nexuses are these big towers that unlock big sections of your map. So I would recommend just taking a good chunk of time and just running around and unlocking all of these as soon as you can. And just as you're playing through the game, just make sure you're hitting up all of the travel points as well. This will make everything much easier later in the game, and also every time you unlock one, you get free astrite. And while you're running around unlocking these, this is also a great time to farm mobs and get new echoes to help level up your databank. And also, while you're doing all of this, don't forget to pick up everything that you see. Seriously, I know people say this about other games as well, but in Wuthering Waves, everything that you can pick up out in the world is used for cooking and crafting recipes that actually matter. Leveling up your cooking skill is very important, and using food buffs is huge in Wuthering Waves. When your cooking skill is maxed out, you can use a food item called Jinjo Maokai that increases all of your character's crit rates by 28% for 30 minutes. This is an insanely huge buff, and using food buffs like this makes a massive difference in the damage that you can dish out in late game content. It's also smart to take into account the food buffs that you can use when you're building your characters. Because, for example, if you are using a 28% crit rate increase from that Jinzhou Maokai, instead of focusing more on crit rate in some of your Echo builds, you can account for that 28% crit rate and start to focus more on getting crit damage rolls. So, like I said, it's important to pick up everything that you see, but just as an FYI, for me personally, the two items that I can think of off the top of my head that I run out of the most are Honeysuckle and Noctimint. Yes, that's right. In Wuthering Waves, you need to be a mint picker. So let's move on now and talk about your daily stamina. You have 240 wave plates, which is your daily stamina that you use to farm bosses, echoes, and resources, etc. You'll recover 1 wave plate every 6 minutes, which means that if you have reached 0 wave plates, it will take you exactly 24 hours before you are maxed out at 240 again. There is a reserve system in place, so if you are topped out at 240 wave plates, you will gain 1 wave plate crystal every 12 minutes. Wave plate crystals top out at 480, and you will gain 1 of those every 12 minutes while you are topped out on your regular 240 wave plates. This allows you to take breaks from the game and not completely miss out if you don't use all of your wave plates in a day, and it is a quite nice feature that the devs have added since launch. The most important thing to keep in mind if you want to keep progressing your account is to not let your wave plates and wave plate crystals get maxed out for too long. You want to be using your wave plates every single day if you can. Use them to farm the mats that you need to build characters and to keep progressing your account. If your wave plates and wave plate crystals are topped out, you are essentially losing out on account progression. Now, real quick, I want to talk about these things called crystal solvents. They're these items here, and you will earn them as you play the game from the battle pass, and also Kuro gives them out quite frequently as rewards. Each one of these crystal solvents, when used, gives you 60 wave plates. Essentially, they allow you to continue farming content for resources when you have already used all of your daily stamina. Now, you are going to hear people tell you not to use these until you are very far into the game and your world level is high enough that you are getting the maximum amount of resources that you can possibly get from using them. But trust me when I tell you, it doesn't make sense to not use them when you need them. If you are using them, it is helping you to get to that higher world level faster, and you cannot benefit from having the higher world level until you get to the higher world level. So this is what I do, and this is what I would recommend. Use your crystal solvents to help you when you need to build a character, a weapon, or an echo that you're working on. For example, if you run out of your daily stamina and you are in the middle of leveling a character, use your crystal solvents to continue farming the boss materials that you need in order to ascend that character to the next level cap. There is literally no reason not to do that. On the same note, there is also absolutely no reason not to do the Tower of Adversity and the Elusive Realm. These are 2 of the endgame modes in Wuthering Waves, and they give really excellent rewards. Astrites for pulling more characters, and lots of resources and mats for leveling characters, echoes, and weapons. Even if you find it intimidating or you are unable to finish them completely, that is totally fine. Do what you can do and get the rewards that you can get from them. Over time, your account will get stronger, you will get better, and you'll be able to clear everything and get all of the rewards. But if you're skipping out on them now, you are skipping out on the rewards that you could be getting, so don't do that. If you are struggling with the Elusive Realm, go check out my guide. I'll put it up in the top right of the screen, and I'll link it in the description below as well if you want to go check it out after this video. I haven't made a guide for the Tower of Adversity yet, but I am thinking about making one soon. Do me a favor, like this video and subscribe if you found it helpful. Thanks for listening to me yap. Later.